Hi, my name is Conor O'Callaghan and I am part of the West Cork Literary Festival Advent Calendar. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking you prefer a Celebration Malteser. I probably would myself, but this is where we're at. I'm going to read from my novel, We Are Not in the World, that came out this year. The passage I'm going to read is a kid's bedtime story that sort of needs no explaining, but I wouldn't really recommend that you read it to kids. A story at bedtime. Once upon a time there was a giant. The giant lived in the caravan at the bottom of the garden. How the giant got there, when or where the giant went, nobody can be certain. The giant had a huge coat and heaps of hair, and a beard of orange and brown that looked like a tabby cat on his face. The giant ate beans cold from a can, and drank liquid honey from an oblong bottle, and slept loads. When he spoke, white clouds billowed out of his black mouth. His voice was funny. He was from somewhere else, a very far away to where he would eventually return. The giant had a name, the Bugle. There was a small boy who lived in the house of the garden that had the caravan where the giant lived. It was the small boy who found the giant down one afternoon when snow was coming. It was the small boy who gave the giant his name, the Bugle. This is the story of how the small boy thought of the name for the giant. The caravan lives at the bottom of the garden all through the winter. In summer, the caravan lives in the drive at the front. But it is too cold to go anywhere in the winter. So the caravan stays at the bottom of the garden under a tent of tarpaulin that the boy's father calls tarp. In summer, the tarp sits folded on a shelf in the shed. Every Halloween, the boy's father tows the caravan around the back, shakes out tarp and bangs it to the ground with heavy iron pins. Then the boy's father pats the side of the caravan and says to the caravan the same words every year. Winter well, old son. But one winter, in the first weeks of the new year, the boy woke too early from his afternoon nap and padded around the empty house and couldn't find his mother, and saw tracks to the caravan in the dusting of snow, and went down on his wellies and opened the door of the caravan without knocking. His mother was curled under a duvet in her clothes. In the middle of the floor there was a giant with a beard and a funny voice. The boy's mother sat up and said, "Hello, chicken," the way she always says it. Except this time she sounded frightened, and she looked frightened as well. The giant put his hands on the hips of his greatcoat. "Well," the giant said to the small boy, "you're some Bugle." Bugle means boy. His mother told him this later when the Bugle was no longer down in the caravan, and nobody could be certain if he had ever been there. The boy didn't know what it means when he gave the giant that name. The Bugle was a secret between the boy and his mother. The boy's father never knew about the Bugle, not really. The boy and the boy's mother decided during bath time that the boy's father wouldn't believe them, or worse, might chase the Bugle away. So they agreed, the small boy and his mother, that the Bugle would remain their secret. When the boy's father was out, they agreed they would bring food and hot water bottles down to the caravan. It would be an adventure. They would never be sure if the Bugle would be still there when they opened the door. The one time that the boy said Bugle at the table, his father stopped speaking. What? The boy stopped speaking too and looked at his mother. The boy explained to the boy's father that the Bugle was the giant from the bedtime story that she told him every night. That was all. Often the boy's mother fell asleep on his bed and stayed there until morning. How very strange, the boy's father said, then started speaking again. The boy's mother shook her head when his father wasn't looking, and she put her finger to her lips. Then the snow came as promised, proper snow. It lasted weeks and weeks, the whole world wrapped in it. Everybody stayed at home, the small boy, his mother, his father. Even the boy's grandfather came on the train and was very sad and had to stay longer than they had planned. Weeks of that. The boy and his mother couldn't go down to the caravan anymore because then his father would know about the buchel. Even when his father wasn't at home, they couldn't go down. Going down to the caravan at the bottom of the garden would make tracks in the snow, and the tracks in the snow could be seen. Was the buchel still down in the caravan? The boy asked this of his mother when nobody else was in the room. His mother lifted the boy and stood him on the windowsill and stared out at the darkness of the garden in the middle of the night. I have no idea, she said. There was no light, no sounds anymore. For all she knew, the boy's mother said, the buchel could have flown away on the time machine that he was making. For all she knew, the buchel could have been just a dream between them, the small boy and his mother, one they shared happily ever after. Have a great Christmas.